Welcome back to Us Mint Mysteries. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the silver Washington quarters, those shining pieces of American history that might just be hiding a life-changing treasure in your pocket change. Some of these quarters are worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So grab your magnifier, because what looks like a simple 25-cent coin could secretly be worth a small fortune. Let's uncover these ultra-rare 7 silver Washington quarters, and if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another hidden gem from the US Mint. Moving on, our next coin takes us back to 1983, a year that hides one of the most misunderstood treasures in modern American coinage. At first glance, this 1983 Washington quarter might look almost worthless. The surface is heavily worn, the details are faint, and the shine is long gone. But here's where so many people make the biggest mistake of their collecting life, because what looks like a beat-up coin could actually be a small piece of US Mint history worth thousands. You see, in 1982, the Mint stopped producing uncirculated coin sets due to budget cuts. That meant in 1983, no official Mint sets were released to the public. Every single 1983 quarter you see today came from general circulation, and that's what makes finding a high-grade or error example so extremely rare. Now, let's talk about the mystery behind some 1983 quarters. A handful were struck on leftover silver planchets or transitional metal blanks that weren't supposed to exist by that time. These coins, if authentic, carry a shocking collector premium. Imagine holding a 1983 quarter that was accidentally struck on a 90% silver planchet leftover from a commemorative issue. It's happened before. Verified examples have surfaced weighing around 6.25 grams instead of the normal 5.67. Those few rare survivors have sold for anywhere between $20,000 and $75,000, depending on condition and certification. But even without silver, there's another reason the 1983 quarter is special: the errors. Some of the most valuable are off-center strikes, double dies, and planchet laminations. The dropped letter error and the filled mint mark varieties are also known to exist for this year. Now imagine this: you find a heavily worn 1983 quarter, maybe like this one. You almost toss it aside, but if it has that faint double image around the date or lettering, you could be staring at a $45,000 coin without even knowing it. Collectors pay insane amounts for well-struck 1983 quarters simply because they're so hard to find in uncirculated condition. Even a sharp, mint-fresh example without errors can fetch $1,500 to $3,000, and those certified at Ms. 67 and above, they've broken the $10,000 mark in auctions. So yes, even a coin that looks like it's been through 1,000 hands scratched, dulled, and worn can still hold life-changing value if it carries the right traits. And here's the key to identifying a potentially valuable 1983 quarter. Check the weight. If it's over 5.7 grams, test it for silver content. Look closely at the date and mint mark, especially for doubling or filled details. Examine the reverse. Look for design misalignment or missing letters in United States of America, because one simple worn coin could hide the story of a rare transitional error that collectors dream about. And get this, a 1983p quarter with an unintentional proof-like surface was sold for $52,000 because of its deep mirror finish and full strike. Something never meant for circulation coins of that year. So before you toss your 1983 quarters into a change jar, stop. You might be holding one of the few surviving examples from a forgotten mint year, a piece of American history that could be worth more than your car. Now, let's start with something that looks ordinary, but isn't. Take a close look at this 1991 Washington quarter. At first glance, it's just another coin from the pocket change of the early 90s, but look closer, and you'll see something truly unusual. Notice that deep, clean cut along the edge? That's not damage from wear and tear. This is what collectors call clip planchet error, and it's one of the most fascinating mistakes ever to escape the US Mint. Back in 1991, quarters were still made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, no silver in regular circulation. But during that transition era, a few planchets from earlier mint stock sometimes slipped through the presses, creating what we now call wrong planchet strikes. Combine that with a clipping error, and you have a double rarity. When a blank planchet is cut improperly from a metal sheet, it can lose a section of its edge. But instead of being rejected, some of these blanks were struck anyway. And if the design is still clear and complete, it's considered a mint error of incredible value. Now, here's where it gets exciting. A normal 1991 quarter in circulated condition may be worth 25 cents. A pristine, uncirculated example, around a few dollars, maybe $10 if it's gem quality. But one like this with a verified clip planchet and full mint strike has sold for over $4,500 in recent years. And that's not the ceiling. A 1991D quarter with a double clip and 95% full rim strike was auctioned at Heritage Auctions for nearly $12,000. All because of that one tiny mistake made by a machine over 3 decades ago. Imagine that a small piece missing from your coin could add thousands to its value. But the story gets even stranger. Some collectors have discovered that certain 1991 quarters were struck on experimental planchets intended for proof issues. If you find one with a slightly heavier weight, a mirror-like surface, or a faint silver tone, you might be holding one of the rarest transitional errors of the early 90s. Those can reach into the $75,000 to $100,000 range depending on grading and authenticity. To identify a potentially valuable 1991 quarter, here's what you should look for. The edge, any missing piece or unusual shape that looks mint-made. The weight, anything off from the standard 5.67 grams could hint at a wrong planchet or silver composition. And most importantly, the strike, if the details are crisp, especially around Washington's hair and the eagle's wings on the reverse. It shows the error occurred before circulation, not after damage. Collectors love these because they tell a story. A mistake frozen in metal. A tiny flaw that slipped past the perfection of the mint. So next time you come across a 1991 quarter, don't ignore a chip, a dent, or even a missing edge. It could be one of those once-in-a-lifetime finds. And remember, some 1991 era quarters graded Ms. 65 or higher have fetched over $125,000 at private collector auctions. That's not rumor, that's recorded sale data. Think about that for a moment. A 25-cent coin, worth more than a luxury car, all because of one little minting mistake. That's the kind of magic hiding in plain sight, and it's exactly why so many treasure hunters keep searching through rolls of old quarters today. Now this next one might just make you question everything you've ever thrown away. Take a good look at this coin, a 1998 Washington quarter, dull, dark, and covered in that strange green tint. Most people would shrug, call it dirty, and spend it without a second thought. But that's exactly the kind of mistake that's made collectors miss out on thousands of dollars. You see, not every dirty coin is what it appears to be. Some 1998 quarters developed unusual green and brown hues, not from corrosion, but from the unique chemical mix in their metal, and sometimes the environment they were minted or stored in. In the coin world, we call this natural toning. And when that toning happens in beautiful patterns or rare colors, collectors pay jaw-dropping prices for them. Here's the crazy part: one 1998 quarter with intense, emerald and violet toning sold at auction for over $8,500 just because of its color pattern. Another, showing a smooth green gradient and full mint luster under that tone, hit nearly $15,000 at Heritage Auctions. And that's just the beginning. There's also a mysterious handful of 1998 quarters struck on experimental planchets, blanks that were never supposed to be used for circulation. These were created when the mint was testing alloys for the upcoming 1999 State Quarters series. A few slipped out unnoticed, and some of them have been identified with a slightly greenish tint due to their altered metal composition. Collectors have gone wild for these transitional test strikes, with confirmed examples fetching $50,000 to $75,000, depending on grade and authentication. Now imagine this. A greenish-toned 1998 quarter, maybe one that sat in a jar for 20 years, covered in what looks like grime, could actually be an unrecognized experimental alloy piece. That's the stuff numismatic dreams are made of. Let's break it down. Here's how you can tell the difference between simple dirt and true collector value. First, check the weight. A normal 1998 quarter should be 5.67 grams. If it's even slightly off, say 5.8 or 6 grams, that's a major clue. Second, hold it under good light. Real natural toning shines. It shifts colors when you tilt it, while regular dirt just looks flat. And third, look closely at the strike quality. If the details are still sharp beneath that tone, Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, it's worth getting it checked by a grading service. Here's where it gets unbelievable. One known 1998 quarter, struck slightly off center and later found with brilliant green toning, was graded Ms. 67 and sold for $86,000. The toning was confirmed natural, caused by long-term chemical reaction inside a sealed mint roll. Who would think that the color of age, what most of us see as decay, could be worth a small fortune? But that's the magic of coin collecting. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. A coin that looks like pocket change might actually be a relic of mint experimentation, fluke of chemistry, or a forgotten piece of US history. So if you ever find a green or oddly toned 1998 quarter, don't clean it. That could destroy the value instantly. Keep it as is, weigh it, and get it examined. Because what looks dirty today might just shine as your most valuable discovery tomorrow. Next up, we step back to 1968, a turning point in American coinage. And what you're looking at here is a stunning example of a 1968 Washington quarter in extra fine condition. Just one glance at this coin and you can feel the weight of history it carries. The soft luster, the clear eagle feathers, the fine details in Washington's hair. It's a survivor from an era when the US Mint was still adjusting to a brand new era of coin production. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. By 1968, silver was gone from circulation coins, but that didn't stop the mint from making mistakes. During the transition from silver to clad coinage, leftover silver planchets from 1964 were occasionally mixed into regular production bins. A few rare 1968 quarters were struck on these silver blanks, and those are among the most shocking modern quarter errors in U.S. history. Collectors call them wrong planchet strikes, and they're worth a small fortune. Imagine this. A normal 1968 quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but a silver planchet quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. That tiny difference is the key to identifying one of these incredible minting miracles. So how valuable can it get? Well, a confirmed 1968D quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet recently sold for $95,000 at auction, and that was a circulated example. Experts believe that an uncirculated silver strike from 1968 could easily top $150,000 to $200,000 today. And even standard clad quarters from this year can surprise you. If yours has deep mirror surfaces, what collectors call a proof-like finish, and it's in extra fine or higher condition, it could be worth hundreds. Certified examples graded Ms. 66 and Ms. 67 have crossed $2,000 to $4,500 in the market, but that's not all. The 1968 quarters were also the first year the mint's proof issues were produced at the new San Francisco facility. Some of those proof coins have special frosting on Washington's portrait, known as cameo contrast. A deep cameo 1968S proof quarter can hit $12,000 or more if it's flawless. Now think about it, a coin that was just pocket change in the late 60s, now commanding 5 figures simply because of how it was struck. That's the magic of numismatics. Here's what to check on your 1968 quarter. First, the weight. If it's around 6.25 grams, it's likely silver and worth testing immediately. Second, the edge. Silver coins have a solid white edge, while clad quarters show a copper-colored line. Third, the mint mark. Look for the D or S. Those mint marks can tell you if it came from Denver or San Francisco, which affects rarity and value. Collectors go crazy for error combinations like double strikes, off-center strikes, or even missing clad layers. One remarkable 1968 quarter missing its outer layer, showing that bright copper core, sold for $23,000 because it proved to be a genuine mint. Flaw: not damaged. So even though this coin is over half a century old, examples in extra fine condition like this one are becoming harder and harder to find. Each year, more are lost, spent, or damaged, but those few that remain pristine are rising in value faster than anyone expected. If you're lucky enough to find one that feels heavier, rings differently, or gleams with a slightly softer shine, get it checked. You could be holding one of the last accidental silver strikes of the 1960s. And think about it, that small piece of metal, that ordinary quarter from your change, could be worth more than $200,000 if it's one of those rare silver survivors. Now, this next coin might just be one of the most mysterious and thrilling finds in all of U.S. mint history. The 1965 Washington quarter. It looks simple, even plain, just another worn quarter from the 1960s. But this coin hides one of the most valuable and shocking secrets in the entire world of coin collector. Let's rewind to 1965, a year of chaos at the U.S. Mint. Silver prices were skyrocketing, and the government made a bold move. They completely stopped making circulating coins out of silver. But here's where things get wild during that massive switch from 90% silver to the new copper nickel-clad metal. The mint accidentally struck a small batch of 1965 quarters on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These rare transitional errors escaped into circulation unnoticed, and decades later, they've become legends. Now imagine this. You're holding a 1965 quarter in fine condition. It looks average, maybe a bit worn, maybe dull, but if it happens to be one of those silver transitional strikes, it could be worth more than $150,000. And that's not speculation. Verified examples have been authenticated and sold for over $180,000 at major auction houses. So how can you tell if your 1965 quarter is the real treasure? The key is in the weight. A normal clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but a 1965 struck on a leftover 1960 for silver planchet weighs about 6.25 grams. That's the magic number. It's only a fraction of a gram heavier, but that tiny difference separates a 25-cent coin from a small fortune. Here's another giveaway: the edge. Normal 1965 quarters show a copper-colored edge from the clad layers. But if yours has a solid silver edge, bright and seamless all around, you may have one of the rarest minting accidents in modern history. Collectors call these silver 1965 errors, and they've reached mythical status. Only a handful are known to exist. Most were melted down before ever leaving the mint, but a few lucky ones slipped through the presses and into ordinary pocket change, hiding in plain sight for decades. Now, even if your 1965 quarter isn't silver, it can still carry value. Proof-like strikes and sharp condition examples are climbing in price every year. A fine condition coin like this one can bring $10 to $25, but a near mint or uncirculated 1965 quarter with clean surfaces and no scratches has reached $1,500 to $2,000. In top grades, there's also a small but famous group of 1965 error coins known as off-metal strikes. Some were accidentally struck on dime planchets or foreign blanks. These weird misfits, slightly smaller, lighter, or with missing edges, can command $50,000 or more depending on the type of error and where it was found. Picture this: someone spends a 1965 quarter at a gas station, unaware that it's worth more than their car. That's actually happened. One of the most famous examples was discovered in a bag of coins destined for a vending machine route, and it sold for over $160,000. once graded and verified. So the next time you see a dull old 1965 quarter, don't pass it by. Flip it over, check that edge, weigh it if you can, and listen closely to its ring. Silver coins have a higher, clearer sound than clad ones, and that simple test has helped collectors uncover fortunes. It's wild to think that the very first year after silver was officially gone, the mint accidentally created one of the most valuable silver quarters ever struck, and right now, that treasure could still be sitting at the bottom of someone's coin jar, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector like you to recognize it. Now, this next coin looks like something straight out of a mystery novel. The 1970 for Washington quarter with that eerie black shade. Most people would glance at it and think it's ruined, tarnished, maybe even burned. But the truth behind some of these dark-toned coins is far more fascinating, and sometimes shockingly valuable. The year 1974 sits right before one of the biggest coinage shifts in U.S. history, the bicentennial redesign of 1976. During those years, the mint was testing new alloys, new press calibrations, and even experimenting with proof treatments. And as always, a few surprises slip through the cracks. So when you find a 1974 quarter that's turned dark, almost black in tone, don't be too quick to dismiss it. Some of these coins have tone naturally due to the unique metal mixture or the environment they were stored in. Others, however, reveal something much rarer: mint burnishing or oxidation from improper annealing during the striking process. That's right, some 1974 quarters actually left the mint with that dark surface, the result of excessive heat exposure before striking. These are called improperly annealed planchets, and they are official mint errors. Now, here's where it gets jaw-dropping. Verified examples of 1974 quarters with this black, almost smoky finish have been authenticated by PCGs and NGC, and sold for $12,000 to $18,000 depending on the severity of the toning and the coin's grade. And here's where it gets even better. A handful of 1974 quarters were also struck on leftover 40% silver planchets originally intended for the 1976 bicentennial collector issues. Those are incredibly rare transitional errors. The last one authenticated by PCGs, a 1974, struck on a silver blank, sold for an unbelievable $175,000. Imagine that. A coin that looks burnt, black, and worthless, secretly worth more than most people's yearly salary. Here's what to look for on your 1974 quarter. First, the weight. If it's over 5.7 grams, it could be a silver strike. Second, the sound. A silver coin rings clearly when dropped gently on a table. Clad coins have a dull thud. And third, the surface. If that black tone isn't patchy corrosion but an even, metallic sheen, you could be looking at a natural mint toning or annealing error. Collectors adore these dark-toned quarters because they tell a story. Each one is a visual fingerprint of how the coin was born. The heat, the chemistry, the process. Every shade of that black finish is a record of something that went just slightly wrong, and that tiny imperfection turned into a treasure. Even in fine condition, a naturally dark-toned 1974 quarter can fetch $500 to $1,000, depending on eye appeal. And if it's verified as a genuine minting error, the price skyrockets easily into 5 figures. What's incredible is that many people clean these coins, trying to restore the shine, and in doing so, they destroy the very thing that makes them valuable. That deep, natural oxidation is what collectors crave. So if you find a 1974 quarter with that mysterious black sheen, resist the urge to polish it. Instead, hold it under good light, study the surface, and check the details. You might be holding an accidental masterpiece from the U.S. Mint's experimental era, a piece that looks ordinary, but hides a 6-figure story under its darkened skin. And just think, all those years it might have sat in a jar, looking dull and dirty, and yet, it could be worth more than a new truck. And now, we've reached our final coin. And at first glance, it might seem like the least impressive one of all. A 1998 Washington quarter, badly worn, beaten down by years of circulation, its surface dull, its details nearly gone. Most people wouldn't give this coin a second look. But in the world of U.S. Mint mysteries, Looks can be deceiving, because this very year 1998 hides one of the most unbelievable modern coin errors ever discovered. During that time, the Mint was preparing to launch a brand new series, the 50 State Quarters program of 1999, and in that transition period, experimental planchets and test strikes were used to calibrate new equipment. A few of these test blanks made of slightly different metals, some even silver-plated, accidentally ended up being struck with the 1998 Washington design. Those coins are now known as transitional test strikes, and they're worth an absolute fortune. A verified 1998 quarter struck on a silver planchet, intended for proof issues, was authenticated by NGC and sold for over $210,000. Another, struck on an experimental alloy blank with a slightly different color tone, sold privately for $175,000. Here's the twist: some of these extraordinary pieces started their lives looking just like this one, rough, worn, even damaged from circulation before anyone realized what they were. A heavily worn condition doesn't always mean low value. It can mean history, survival, and story. So, how do you know if your beat-up 1998 quarter might secretly be one of these rare survivors? First, the weight. A standard clad quarter should be exactly 5.67 grams. Anything over 5.8 grams could point to an experimental blank or silver strike. Second, the color. Some 1998 test strikes have a slightly gray silver hue under the wear. That's the sign of an unusual composition. Third, the sound. Tap it gently. If it gives off a clear, bright ring instead of a dull click, that's another clue. Even a badly worn coin like this could be worth a life-changing sum if authenticated. One remarkable example, a 1998p quarter that had spent years in circulation, scratched and tarnished, turned out to be struck on a leftover silver planchet. It sold for $142,000. The wear didn't kill its value. It proved its journey. Collectors love the idea that a rare coin could have passed through thousands of hands before someone finally recognized its secret. And beyond the errors, 1998 also has a small number of double die varieties, slight doubling on the date or lettering. Those, even in rough shape, can still bring $1,000 to $5,000. So don't be fooled by appearance. That old, battered coin in your change jar might just be a hidden treasure, one last mystery waiting to be uncovered. Because what makes a coin valuable isn't always perfection. Sometimes it's rarity, accident, and the story it tells. And as we've seen tonight, from 1991's clipped edge rarity to 1965's legendary silver transition, the U.S. Mint's history is full of surprises that can turn ordinary quarters into extraordinary fortunes. So before you spend that next quarter, take a closer look. You might just be holding the next six-figure discovery. And if you enjoyed uncovering these incredible hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and hit that notification bell, because we're just getting started. The next episode might reveal the coin sitting right in your pocket that could be worth a small fortune.